Good morning. This is my proposal presentation of my dissertation research topic, and it's on movement-based teaching and communicative language teaching in ESL. It's going to be a comparative study on learner engagement in a Sri Lankan primary school, and broader teaching insights are taken as well. So, moving on. As an introduction, I would like to define these terms. Movement-based teaching, or MBT, incorporates physical activity into the classroom to enhance learning and engagement. Communicative language teaching is another approach that focuses on interaction and communication in real-world situations. So I'm going to be comparing these two teaching approaches through a study done in a primary school and getting teacher insights as well. Moving on, so I noticed that there's a research gap as there's only a few to limited research comparing these methods in terms of their effectiveness in engaging young ESL learners in primary settings, especially here in Sri Lanka, the first and second graders mostly. I also referred to this article. Actually, it's a study done by the British Council in 2022. They found out that few studies have focused specifically on how these approaches impact learners' ability to answer questions about everyday objects and actions, which are foundational language skills for early learners. And that study went on to seek to address this gap, and I would be doing the same. But I would be taking two approaches, MBT versus CLT, and I would be seeing how they are effective in enhancing the engagement among second grade ESL learners in Sri Lankan primary public school. So moving on, why am I doing this study? So I have three objectives. The first one is to observe the level of learner engagement with MBT and CLT approaches, to evaluate which approach enhances learner engagement the most, to gather language teachers' opinions on different teaching approaches. So moving on to my literature review. So I found out in not only in Sri Lankan context but outside foreign context, there's existing literature about these different approaches. So Gardner is famous for his 7 intelligences. So different teaching approaches for different intelligence. That's what he focused on. And incorporation of movement-based activities in classrooms is one of Gardner's kinesthetic intelligence, which has been the focus of Klein Jam in 2020, and I would be also referring to Casaras in 2023. He focused on how enhancing language skills through daily discussions, which is related to communicative language teaching. And in the previous article I referred, they unfortunately found out that there's not enough teaching approaches in Sri Lankan context. In Sri Lankan context, specifically in grades 1 to 2, before the mandatory grade 3 English as a subject, teachers are not being trained to teach English to first and second graders. However, while I was researching about this topic, I found out that we already have a program implemented called the ABOE program, the Activity-Based Oral English Program for grade 1 and 2. So it's a program that was initiated in making sure that the first and second graders going to the third grade who are expected to learn English as a subject would have a better time in understanding English through this program, and to also help guide them through the English learning education. So while I was not researching about ABOE, because I was not aware of that, being from a public school myself, we didn't expect this to be implemented in public schools when we came there to teach. But yes, ABOE program has been implemented, and it has been for at least since 2018, which was the renewal of the syllabus. So it has been implemented before that. So the previous work by the British Council, they found that class teachers may not be competent enough to teach English. This was noted when they found out that class teachers or homeroom teachers are the same ones who have to teach English under this program, which many teachers would find it hard and difficult because they do not have enough English as a language teaching training imparted on them. So the school that I have selected, they have already initiated that program, but they have only recently finished training their teachers. So these teachers were coming back, and that's when I got to hear about ABOE, and it does not affect my research at all, but hopefully I would be able to finish this research before the end of this school year. So moving on, the methodology of my research. So I will be taking 2 classrooms from second grade, MBT, movement-based teaching, classroom 1, and 1 classroom for CLT approach, communicative language teaching. So each classroom would have 35 students each, and under the guidance of the classroom teacher, I will be conducting these 2 approaches. So for 1 classroom I would be doing MBT, for the other I would be doing CLT. This would be a quasi-experiment. Furthermore, I would be taking the insights of English teachers here in Sri Lanka, and I would be taking their opinions, their views, their perspectives on CLT and MBT and other teaching approaches as well. So there are 2 stages in my research. One is teaching learners, and the other is getting insights from the teachers. So moving on, so as you can see, this is my conceptual framework. The independent variable is the teaching methods. So MBT versus CLT. And the dependent variables are the learner engagement and teacher perception. So moving on with our methodology, how I would be doing this with the learners. I would be conducting 12 sessions, each session 30 minutes, and one session per week. So altogether 12 weeks. And these sessions will include lessons such as family members, weather, and time. I would be doing a pre and post assessment. I have already conducted the pre assessment, and the post assessment is yet to be done. And how I will be doing these assessments is it's the same assessment with 10 close-ended questions, same for both groups. But the only difference is for MBT classroom, I would be using pictures to elicit physical response. So they would be using their hand gestures, using their fingers to point out which the correct answer is for the 20 questions I'm about to ask them. For the CLT, Communicative classroom, I would not be using pictures, but I would be getting their verbal responses. And by analyzing their learner engagement with my eye observations, I will be conducting this experiment. And the procedure with teachers, how I'm going to do it with teachers is I'm going to distribute a questionnaire asking about their opinions about MBT versus CLT approaches and also other approaches. So they would be open-ended questions about different teaching methods and approaches. And sample size, I was thinking of at least 50 up until 100. So moving on, the data analysis. How I would be doing it is through learner engagement. First of all, I would be comparing the accuracy scores and also the progression of each classroom from the pre and post assessments. And I would be using these statistics to determine if there are significant differences in learner engagement and question answering accuracy. For the teachers, the questionnaire, I would be eliciting statistical analysis after conducting that part of the experiment, and the survey responses will be conducted to assess teachers' perspectives on MBT and CLT, identifying any trends, challenges, or advantages in each of the methods. So moving on, these are my limitations and ethical considerations. The limitations are, unfortunately, I will only be conducting this in only one school that happens to be a primary public school, and I will only be taking second graders. Although this experiment cannot be applicable to older learners, I would be glad to receive teachers' perspectives that elaborates on different contexts, of age, of the level of their learners, of public or private status of their schools, and even regions from the questionnaires I would be supplying them. So moving on to ethical consideration, I would always be guided and under observation by homeroom teachers. I will get consent letter from the principal, and if needed, I can get signed consent forms from the parents. So this would be my timeline. As you can see, I have already started data collection since July, and starting from the 4th week of November, I will be starting my dissertation writing. and hopefully I can finish everything by the first week of February. And so these are the references that I used within this presentation, but there are other references other sources I referred to in my proposal. So I hope that you gain some kind of insight with my proposal, and if there are any questions, you can please direct them to me, and thank you for your time, and have a lovely day.